Hello, friends, and welcome back to Hey Adora. This is Princess Jenny coming to you with some announcements at the top. We hope you all have been having a fantastic summer. I am coming to you alone today because Meph is recuperating from having done an amazing live show at FlameCon all by themselves because we had so many shenanigans in the week leading up to FlameCon. We worked our little Etherean butts off all summer to be ready for this super fun, super exciting live show. And then 3 days before the show, I got COVID. So our dear, illustrious, and noble Force Captain Meph did the whole thing solo. And we also were able to get a fantastic guest co-host, Meph's friend TK from the podcast X is for Podcast, which is a queer X-Men podcast. Had a fabulous guest co-host, and they're old friends. So the banter was still a-flowin'. So that was a big, awesome bucket of shenanigans. So I wasn't there, but I did hear the recording. And friends, it's dope. You're gonna love it. So Meph is having a well-earned rest right now from FlameCon and from their birthday weekend, which just passed. So you can all wish Meph, Force Captain Meph, a very happy birthday on the social medias. So I wanted to tell you all about that. Thank you, FlameCon, for hosting us and for supporting us through all of that shenanery. The collective we had a great time, and the collective we enjoyed meeting everyone who came out and networking and giving out stickers and doing all the fun things that people do at live events. And I am still looking forward to my first live show, which will be in the future. Now that our live show cherry has been popped, we'll be going to lots more live shows in the future. We are quite sure of that. So today's episode is the season 2 finale, Fun with Bo's Dads, yay. And after this episode, our next episode will be part 2 of our race and S-pop discussion that has already been recorded, so that will be coming to you in the not distant future. And sometime in October, we will be having our next live watch with our patrons in our super fun Patreon community. If you're not part of our Patreon community, it's super easy to join. Memberships start at $3 and give you access to all of our fun Discord community happenings, live watches, live chats, all sorts of fun stuff we got going on. And after our next race and S-pop discussion, we will head right into season 3 in the fall. So that's all kinds of fun stuff we have coming up. And that is all we have to tell you right now. Happy summer. Happy Labor Day weekend for those of you going back to school, doing back to fall things. Happy new school year. Happy new Jewish year coming up for those of you in the tribe. And here is our next episode.
Hey folks, and welcome to Hey Adora, your queer She-Ra podcast. I'm Force Captain Meph, they, them.
And I am Princess Jenny, she, her.
And today we are talking about Bo's dads. I love Bo's dads. I love Bo's dads so much.
Our favorite dads in all of Etheria.
I know, they're so good. Sandals and socks dads.
Yes. Dad joke dads.
Dad joke tough PTSD dads.
Aww.
With a heart of gold. Today's episode is Reunion. It is Season 2, Episode 7, written by Josie Campbell, head writer, story by Jasmine Goggins, Mickey Quinn, our Regent of Adora, and Jessica Zamet. It is directed by Jen Bennett.
Also, this is the Season 2 finale.
And it is the Season 2 finale. We had a short season for Season 2, which...
Yes, we have discussed previously how they decided to do it this way, and they had their reasons.
Right.
But some of us, like, I pretty much think of Season 2 and Season 3 as one season. So I think of this as a mid-season finale because that's just how it makes sense to me in terms of the narrative flow.
Agreed. I feel the exact same way.
I'm glad that we're on the same page.
Yeah, I love it when we agree with things.
Yes. 2 queers, 1 mind.
2 queers, 1 mind. We don't always agree, but when we do, we really fucking agree on shit.
Yes, we do. Anyways, this is a very fun episode. We've had a lot of heavy stuff lately.
Yep.
And this is mostly good times.
This is mostly good times and some very important exposition.
Yes, there is some important exposition built into this episode.
Oh my god. Jenny, we're going to be doing that so much throughout this episode.
It is our duty as princesses.
And also as scholars.
Yes, princess scholars of the academy.
Of the academy.
Yes. So let's start where we are. We're starting in Bright Moon. With our friend Bo, who is the star of this episode.
Yay, Bo! I love Bo episodes.
Yes. It's always...
There aren't that many, but... No,
it's great when you have a character who is present a lot, but who, we don't really ever see their backstory, and then you get one episode where it's like, hey, here's this person's entire backstory.
I know, I love it. It's like the Zeppo kind of episode, which is an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which focuses on Xander, who is a trash bag, but the Zeppo is an awesome episode.
Yes, that's a good example. Even though we are not fans of Xander, that is an excellent example of what type of episode this is.
Yeah, Xander's gross, but that is a good episode, and that is kind of what this is.
Xander are like opposite ends of one spectrum.
Exactly. They're both supposed to be, they're both the heart, right? They're both the ones that don't have the superpowers.
The everyman, regular person who doesn't have any superpowers in the group, and yet, is important to the group in spite of, or maybe because of that, and has the heart,
Yeah, I mean... Bo literally has has an open heart, right?
Yes,
everywhere.
Bo's heart is his entire character.
Including on the bottom of his shoes, which I really want to get to, which we're going to get to soon.
So a lot of people in other podcasts that reference Buffy and Avatar often refer to Xander being the low end of that spectrum and Sokka being on the high end. And I agree with that. And then I would put Bo even above Sokka. It doesn't have to be a contest. But,
I think it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. I think Sokka's on the middle to high because Sokka has a journey of not being of being kind of
that's true.
He kind of learns how to not be that kind of toxic dude, right?
That's true. And Bo just embodies it wholly and fundamentally.
Yep.
Yes. That's true.
If anything, Bo's growth is about self-discovery and not about shedding toxic masculine traits.
That's true. That is very, very true. So we start off with Bo hanging out on top of the castle with his tracker pad, trying to work on the clues they got at the end of the last episode. Mara, Portal, Serenia, trying to figure out these clues, and then he gets a little calendar notification on his little tracker pad. Boop, boop. Oh no. Was that today? Oh no.
What? Bo? What secret do you have waiting for us?
Something's happening. He forgot. See, when you put a calendar notification in your calendar, you have to remember not to just have it go off 5 minutes before the event. You got to give yourself time. I like to set things to remind me a week before, and then a day before, and then an hour before. So I have plenty of warnings.
You got to give yourself time.
So Bo did not give himself time.
Nope.
So off he goes. And then we have a quick transition to Adora's room, where Glimmer immediately teleports in. Emergency! Adora, get up! It's Bo! He's in trouble!
And Adora has a friggin' dagger under her pillow, which...
Of course she does! A jeweled dagger!
A bejeweled dagger that has, a magical genderqueer clit, too.
Yep.
Because, Adora.
Real quick theme song.
Credits. Are we gonna win in the end?
Probably yes.
Probably. I mean, at this point, yeah.
Yeah, we go right back to Adora's room. Glimmer is very worried. Bo's gone. His arrows are gone. He left a note. Yep. And Adora is not that worried. She's like, this note that says, I'm fine, don't follow me.
It kind of reminds me of those memes that are if I'm kidnapped, here's the one thing that you will hear me say to know that I am, right?
Right, here's my opposite safe word.
Right? Mine would be I think ponchos are neat or something like that,
Yeah. So, and it's kind of, they're setting us up to have a lighthearted episode where, Adora's oh, this note that says I'm fine, don't follow me. And Glimmer's he's not fine, we have to follow him. Womp womp.
Oh, Glimmer.
Adora's okay, calm down, I agree. Okay, so where does he go when he's not at Bright Moon?
And Glimmer.
Question!
Glimmer, it should be an easy question, right?
Right, because Glimmer's his best friend. They've been best friends for their entire lives, as far as we know?
As far as we know.
Right, so this is where Glimmer reveals to Adora and all of us that she doesn't know anything about Beau's private life. Mm-hmm. Because he's never talked about it. And she just assumes that it's dark and painful, and she respects his privacy and has not pushed him to talk about his traumatic past.
I like that she just assumes that it's dark and painful because everybody else's is dark and painful.
Yeah, they live in this war-torn world, full of war orphans. So it's a reasonable conclusion.
It's a reasonable conclusion.
And she, she respects the fact that, if he wanted to talk about it, he would talk about it.
Yeah. They were like, okay, we don't really know where Beau goes, but let's follow him, right?
Yes. Because of his very distinctive footprints, it should be easy to follow him.
Yeah. I like that Adora's doing the whole, these twigs are broken. And is playing with, the tree sap. And it's like,
Right. Plus this.
Plus, the hearts on the bottom of his shoes.
Right. When I was little, my mom had a bunch of really cool stamps. Not just, little kid stamps, but, really cool art stamps.
Yeah.
Because my mom was an artist. And I had, this whole cool typographic alphabet and a bunch of other cool stuff. So I'm just imagining, he's got, stamps on the bottom of his feet. He's literally, stamping a path.
I love that.
Boop, boop, follow along this trail of stamps.
Boop, 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 boop. I'm guessing when he's going, he's definitely saying that. Boop, 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 boop. Going to a mystery spot.
Yeah. So very, very easy to follow. If you are of a mind to follow Beau.
Yep.
That can be accomplished pretty easily.
And they find his arrows, and that really freaks out Glimmer.
Yes. Because Beau would never leave his arrows behind, because what is Beau without his arrows?
What is Beau without his arrows? He is merely a... Oh, I get it now.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that they named him Beau,
right,
not intending for him to be an archer.
Right. Oh, those wacky dads.
But, it's almost like they were begging for it.
It's almost like they were begging for it.
So they managed to find him fairly easily.
Right, but at this magical place.
This magical library in the middle of the Whispering Woods that they somehow didn't know was there.
Right.
It's just in the middle of the woods.
I was talking about that with my girlfriend, and we were like, how do they... First of all, how does nobody know there's a library there? Second of all, how do these dads not know that there's an entire, fake academy? There's all sorts of,
how did they not know that this was not a real academy? You just send your child off to boarding school without vetting it at all to even know that it's not a real place?
How do they have money?
They just trust Beau so implicitly that they don't even bother checking when he's like, I got into the Academy of School. And I'm going now. And I'll see, and I'm going to be off on break in 6 months, so I'll come back then. That sounds great, son.
Yeah.
Bye.
And I'll come back for a week, but then I have to go to my internship for learning.
Yes, learning things.
Learning things. I also really love the library because it reminds me of the Library of Wan Shi Tong from Avatar.
Yes, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, so Wan Shi Tong is the knowledge spirit who is an incredible giant owl. It's super cool.
Yes.
Who runs a library in the middle of the desert.
Underground
in Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yes.
And it's really cool. And has all of the knowledge that has ever existed.
Yes, which must be guarded very carefully lest it fall into wicked hands.
Into wicked hands. For men use this knowledge for wicked things.
Yes. That's another example of a spirit, an Asian, mythology spirit that can be viewed as not necessarily good or evil, but its entire job is to guard this knowledge.
Yes.
And if you cross this spirit, it will be dangerous to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not, its motivation is just to protect this knowledge. So if you don't fuck with it, it won't fuck with you.
Right, exactly. And, of course they fuck with it. But
of course they fuck with it. But they think, for the right reasons. And,
right.
It's more complex than just good spirits and evil spirits. as is often the case in Western mythology.
Exactly. But for here, we just have Bo's dads who have a giant library.
Dads who are not evil spirits of any kind. They're just adorable.
They're just
dads.
Wonderful.
Dorky, history-loving.
I love those dads. Yes. I love them.
So here we are in the library. So before we get to the dads, we have Bo.
Mm-hmm.
Glimmer and Adora appear in the library, and they find Bo profoundly not looking like himself for one specific reason. Why does the Bo not look like himself, Meth?
His midriff is covered.
He is wearing a full-length shirt tucked into his pants.
Who does that? No Bo.
Who does that to Bo?
No Bo we ever have met has ever done that ever.
And he looks so forlorn about it.
He looks so sad, but he's also got those, like, he's, like, wearing glasses, too, right? It's like,
yeah, like...
He looks super cute.
He looks very cute, but, like, you can just tell it's like he's in drag.
Does he? Yes.
And he's not happy about it.
Yes.
It's not the kind of drag where you're like, woohoo, I'm living my best life.
Right.
He's wearing the kind of drag that you wear when you have to go visit your grandparents.
He is totally wearing grandparents' drag. Also, does this mean Bo wears contacts?
Who knows? It could be, those could just be prop glasses, honestly.
Oh, that's true, to make him look more like a scho-LAR. With intelligence.
I got myself a pair of prop glasses my senior year of college, and they were for no one's benefit except my own because I was starting to have real concentration problems my senior year of college, and I decided that I might have better luck focusing on my homework if I put on glasses because then I would condition my brain to be like, glasses are on, it's homework time.
Oh, I love that. Like a little cognitive hack.
Yeah, but they weren't like...
They weren't like actual glasses, though.
There was no... It wasn't prescription lenses. It looks the same with them or without them.
I love that.
So it helped a little, but the truth is, I was just really burned out and I needed to take time off from school, which I did. And that helped a lot more than fake glasses.
Well, once again, kids, self-care helps more than fake glasses.
But you never know. You gotta try and see what works.
Exactly.
Glimmer and Adora show up, ready to break Bo out of this dangerous situation. Whatever it is. Yes. They're like, what's the situation? We're here. We're ready to defend you.
Right. It's like this dangerous situation where you, like, nerd situation. What is this?
Yes. They're like, what? Who are we fighting?
So Bo's like, no, get out. No, yes. You guys need to leave. This is not a place for you.
Yes. And we're here to fight who? And then opens the door. And who's there?
Dads!
It's dads.
Yay!
Adorable dads. So we've got one dad who strongly resembles the original Bo from the original 1980s She-Ra.
Yep, he's got the
mustache.
And I like how his hair also is kind of winged to look like his mustache, which I think is adorable.
Yes, and that's very much an 80s hairdo also.
Yep, he's graying at the temples. He has a gray mustache. Mm-hmm. His name is George, and fun fact, he's actually named after the actor that played Bo. So the actor that played Bo in the 80s show, his name was George. So
I did not know that. That's lovely.
Isn't that cute?
I love it.
And then we have Lance, who is adorable. I love Lance, first of all, because Lance is like that, like kind of like crunchier, like softy.
Super soft.
He has like long dreads that go down to the middle of his back. He has a 5 o'clock shadow, little reading glasses, and of course, the ultimate dad accessory, socks and sandals.
Yes, and he's the one who does the big puppy eyes.
He's the big puppy eyes.
He's the one who wants to get you snacks, whatever your friends want. I want you guys to be happy and comfortable here. Our house is your house.
He is just the warmest, most welcoming, sweet dad ever.
Yes. So they're the ones who ultimately let us know what's happening by saying to Glimmer and Adora, we're so happy to finally meet Bo's school friends.
And Bo was like, play along. These are my friends from the academy. Meet my dads.
Yes.
And they're just lovely.
So that's what's happening.
Bo's got good dads. Meanwhile, back in the Fright Zone, where no one has good parents.
Yes. Or any parents. All. Yeah. We're back with Catra and our favorite Powerhouse Polycule.
Yeah, thank you. thank you very much to our Patreon members who decided that their name is now the Powerhouse Polycule.
Yay! So Catra is not keeping it together super well. She's freaking out because she lost Shadow Weaver.
Yep.
So she's just basically telling her peeps they gotta, but she's trying to tell them to find Shadow Weaver without admitting that she lost Shadow Weaver. So she's just like telling them to report anything suspicious directly to her.
Yeah, and Lonnie's like, this is bullshit. Shadow Weaver's not in her cell.
Yeah, and Catra's trying to, she's like, well, that's because I sent her to solitary. Now shut the fuck up and look for anything suspicious.
Right.
And Scorpia also is there. Scorpia's like, now Catra, Lonnie's just trying to answer your question.
Right.
Catra is just in no mood. She's not having it. You have your orders. Go do it. Shut the fuck up. That's real quick scene.
Yep.
And then we switch right back to the library.
And so this is actually my first Professor Smart Brain moment.
Oh, yay.
So
I wasn't sure this episode would have any of those.
I have a couple, but this one...
Let's hear it.
This one is fun. So the transcript that we have says, scene switches to the library and pleasant piano music plays.
Yes.
And so this is my Professor Smart Brain moment on classical music.
Okay.
So the music that you hear right now, I have as, quote, there's some very pianoforte shit right here. So the pianoforte is kind of the last precursor to like the grand piano. And the song itself, the tune here, that's very short, is very classical music informed. So when I'm talking about classical music, there's the higher level of classical music, which what I'm speaking of is Western classical music here, which is it's not pop music or folk music. It's kind of a more formalized genre of music is actually what it's described as, which is interesting. But I'm specifically talking about the classical period of classical music, which is Mozart. Let's get into a tiny bit of where classical music comes from, and we're going to learn a teeny tiny bit of music theory today. All right, so we're going to talk about the classical period of classical music. It was an era of classical music roughly between 1730 and 1820. So it falls between the Baroque period of music and the Romantic period. So what separates it from the Baroque period into the Romantic period? So classical music has a lighter, clearer texture than Baroque. It uses a more sophisticated form. There's kind of a plug-in form here that is informed by ideas sought to emulate the ideas of classical Greek antiquity of like order and hierarchy. So this is a little kind of in the weeds, but I promise I'm going to make it fun and accessible for everybody. So one of the major things that we hear in classical music versus Baroque music is the music is mainly homophonic. By the way, I would like to say that when so I actually want to say this. When I looked, no, I said the same thing because, I'm like 12, right? So I looked up homophony or homophony, and when you look up homophomic, it goes to, or homophonic, it goes to the definition for homophony. And it says on the bottom, not to be confused with homophobia. So,
that's important distinction.
Absolutely. So, what is, just a really quick thing, what is homophony?
Can I guess?
Yes, please.
As someone who has studied etymology a lot and does not speak Latin, but knows, suffixes and roots of words.
Let's hear it.
Homo, same. Phonic, sound.
Okay.
So sounds that are the same or of a similar kind?
This is correct.
Yay! I win a big gay prize!
Homophonic music has one main melody, supported by additional musical lines, which is the harmony. So in homophony, the individual parts make up the harmony, and the melody also must have the same rhythm. So, what is an example of homophonous music? Pop music. Anybody playing chords on a guitar and singing a melody over it is homophonous. What does that have to do with classical music? So classical music kind of focused on that because, once again, we're kind of going with the ideas of emphasis on order and hierarchy and a cleaner, clearer style that uses clearer divisions between the part. So a clear single melody accompanied by the chords that are in the same scales as the melody. There's also a brighter contrast and tone colors, which is achieved by the use of dynamic changes So it's not all one volume. And modulations, which is key changes. Mozart is the dude. Like, Mozart is the dude. When we think of classical music, we think of Mozart and Mozart's music. So, like, the two big things that illustrate this, really two very, very well-known examples, is Eine kleine Nachtmusik, which is bum, 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 bum.
Yes, of course.
And Mozart's Piano Sonata number 16 in C major. Other classical composers, Joseph Haydn is also kind of the other big dude. And the early works of Beethoven.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about Beethoven?
So Beethoven straddles the line between the early works of Beethoven are more classical influence, and the later works, as he goes into later in his life, are considered part of the more romantic movement. So, why do we use classical music here? There is a very common trope, specifically used like in cartooning. I mean, anywhere really, but like kind of a medium that speaks in like a broader sense of cartooning and burlesquing and stuff like that. That classical music is the music of the educated, and it is formalized music. So right here, we're using the trope of the classical music, the little like piano, like the light piano melody with the strings that are in chord with it, right? And it's very Mozart informed, to show that they are in a place of education, of formality, and of taste.
Intellectualism.
We have the same thing here with the tea set. So the tea set also kind of is the visual kind of cue for that too. They're sitting and having high tea, which is, they're sitting and having tea out of like formal tea sets. It's not a formalized high tea, but it is also because that has a whole thing. That's a whole other thing.
This is not high tea.
It's just not high tea. But they are sitting around drinking like, the pinkies with like the really cute matching tea set. They have the teacups and the teapot and the, the saucers.
Yes. This is all cues that they are in an academic, intellectual, ivory tower type of setting.
Exactly. So the music in this indicates that. So that was my Professor Smart Brain moment on classical music.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent correlation. 100% spot on.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And also,
very cool.
There's definitely big art history tie-ins too. Western art history tie-ins between like Baroque art movement and like the classical movement and stuff like that. So
yeah. So here we are having high tea and listen to Mozart with George and Lance.
Which sounds lovely, honestly.
Yes,
and
Lance really wants to get us snacks, anything we want, any type of snack. And George is like, all right, husband, relax.
Oh my God. This goes into one of my favorite comedic choices by Amy in the entire series.
When she decides, for whatever reason, that the best way to play, scho-LAR is to continually put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
It's so good.
Like, sure, I guess. That's one choice you could make, and it's very, very funny.
And it's a really great character choice because it shows that Adora's like education was not formal, like a formal academic education, but a practical and tactical education.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great character choice.
And it's so dumb. At the academy that we all go to.
And so it gives us a little bit of backstory about where Beau's dads think he is when he is not at home. The Academy of Historic Enterprises.
Which, of course, is definitely a true, real place. It's like the school of learning for students.
Yes.
And Lance is super hyped to share all of his stuff, too.
Yes,
he's like, look at all our cool stuff.
Yes, this historical thing from this period, all the first one's artifacts, and he shows them the ancient tablet.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know about you, but I'm just imagining, 1,000 years in the future, people in museums looking at, old, dusty iPads that don't work anymore.
Yes, I absolutely brought that up as, someone's going to look at this book, about like a comic book or something like that and be like, yes, and these were the gods that were worshipped, right? Like that's super going to happen.
Of course. I mean, that was something this is, but especially specifically with the tech stuff, it's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Not, like every cultural object eventually becomes an anthropological object of study, but specifically with the tech stuff, it was funny.
Yeah.
Because on this show, especially all the ancient tech.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing to line up specifically in your mind.
Yes, and I love that. Because, like, Adora has the connection, has, like, a direct connection to all of these, has direct knowledge of this.
Right.
So, and that's a really fun, like, dichotomy.
Right. So we get some more backstory exposition as Lance is showing them all the stuff.
Yeah.
And George says, oh, yes, that pottery, Bo's older brother sent it. And Glimmer is, like, so shocked that Bo has one brother even. Bo has a brother?
And she does a spit take, which I love.
She does a spit take. And Lance says, oh, yes, he's the youngest of 13.
All historians.
And all historians. But for some reason, Bo is the one who has to stay home and take over the library, even though all 12 of his brothers are also historians.
I mean, maybe they're out, like, being, like, court historians for the Kingdom of Snows, or, like, archaeologists, or shit like that.
Yeah, of course. There's plenty of historian jobs to go around.
In Etheria.
Yeah, it's just ironic that, he's got 12 historian brothers who want to be historians. In theory, we have no way of knowing.
We have no way of knowing.
If they all authentically want to be historians also, or if they're also hiding their truth from their dads because they don't want to break their sweet little hearts. But it's just ironic that no one else had been like, hey, I'd like to take over, since I am a historian, I'd like a chance at taking over this awesome historical library from my family.
Right, yeah.
He's like, has to be forced to do it.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, it's neither here nor there.
And then we have some more dad jokes.
Yes.
Very cute.
Very cute dad puns.
Yeah. Also, this is kind of like a double pun, right? So it's a play on the word chatty, right? And also there's like a little like slant to chai. A nice little double pun there.
Everyone appreciates a good dad pun.
Who doesn't appreciate a nested dad pun too? Because of course, they're smart. They tell wordy jokes, right? They do word play. Like
Of course.
They could do fart jokes, but they choose to do wordplay.
No, these dads would not do fart jokes.
Exactly.
These are pun dad
These are
joke
pun
type of
dads.
dads. Yeah, 100%. So Bo is low-key panicking this entire time. He's trying to get them out, but that's not happening. Lance wants to give them a tour of the library,
which he's very excited about.
Yes, he brings up, he wants to show them everything in their collection, including the prize jewel of their collection, which is a shard from an ancient defunct runestone. Which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't...
Because it means there's, like, a defunct kingdom.
Yeah, right, with, like, a defunct princess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And actually, I've been wondering something in the back of my mind for a while, and there's never been, like, a perfect episode to bring it up. When overall, we have wondered whether before the first ones came and colonized Etheria, was there originally an Etherian She-Ra that the first ones took over.
Right, yeah.
And I've been wondering lately whether that's just not the case at all. Whether there was originally an Etherian balance of princesses and runestones and all these different kingdoms.
Yep.
And then in order to take that over and create the Heart of Etheria and create this weapon that the first ones could control, they created She-Ra and they created the sword to master all of these other princesses and to be the princess of power.
Right,
because there is no natural Etherian runestone for She-Ra. They created the sword, and the sword is her portable runestone.
Yep.
So maybe there never was an Etherian She-Ra.
Huh.
Because we don't know how long the first ones were there before they left. We have absolutely no way of knowing.
That's true.
It could have been thousands of years. It could have been 100 years.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So I feel like there's no real way of knowing that. So that's just something I've been wondering lately. I wonder what other people think about it.
Yeah, I want to hear what everybody has to think about it.
Now we have evidence of a defunct runestone. I wonder if there is a Catcher Meow Meow applesauce kingdom.
Oh my god, I would love that. A cat kingdom.
Wouldn't it be cool? That would be very cool. I would vacation there.
I would totally vacation at the cat kingdom. Are you kidding me? But we're both cat gays, so.
Yes.
So they don't truck with that, princess nonsense here.
Yes. They're only keeping that because of the historical value. They don't want to have reminders of the princesses and their wars around here.
So we have George here, who was an enlisted soldier for what he believed in, and George definitely has a bit of the PTSD here. He's like, he has the PTSD of an ex-soldier, and he doesn't want to engage in any sort of this fighting. And he's just completely disengaged.
Yeah, and bitterness also. I think
Absolutely.
It's more than just PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely.
He came home and his village was gone.
Yeah.
Burned to the ground. So he feels like, why should I risk my life and my family if it's all for nothing?
Yeah. Definitely.
And I do feel like, even though I don't want to invalidate his feelings, because his feelings, of course, are 100% valid. His experience is valid.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in some ways, I feel like there's a way in which you could see this as victim blame. Because the princesses certainly tried to stop his village from being burned.
Right, but
they did their best.
Absolutely, but it's a war.
And if the rebellion hadn't been there, that certainly would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
And probably just would have happened sooner.
Yeah, that's true. These things happen in a war. And I kind of want to just bring up something really quick. So I definitely spent some time talking to my girlfriend about this because we both really love this episode. And she actually brought up that there's something really interesting about the characters being historians and being so focused on the past that they're not really, they're kind of like isolated because, they're historians.
Yes.
Bo's dad,
Yes.
Bo's dad, George, won't engage in any sort of like external world, and Lance is very about here's the past, here are the baby pictures, here's the history, here's the stories. So I thought that was a really cool thought.
No, you're absolutely right. And that does come up later.
Absolutely.
Later in the series.
Yeah.
Bo says to them directly, I don't remember what episode, I'm sure other people do, you can't just hide out here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being mired in the past.
Yes.
We're here now in the present and you have to engage.
And you have to engage.
At that point, they're like, yes, you're right. We are studying the past so that we can make it useful to you and give you clues as to how to move forward, which is the ultimate use of the study of history.
Absolutely. I mean, that is one of the reasons why I love history so much. I'm a big history nerd. I'm a big nerd, if in case you haven't figured this out, but I really love history.
What?
And I actually really love studying queer history because it also shows you that, we've always existed. There's no, there's so much. When you control history, you can control a population, right? You control the narrative. So.
Absolutely. I mean, read 1984.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's critically important to know your history. So yes, agreed.
Yep. So we're going to, we have George telling his very sad story, and they're so tender together.
Yes.
Lance is such a good husband.
Yes, they are. They have a beautiful relationship.
They really do. It's beautiful. Lance holds him and kisses his hands and
yeah.
Aww.
When George is saying that, he came home from the war and there was nothing left of his village but ash, and he vowed that his family would never get mixed up in fighting or the princesses again.
And Lance, holds some space for him, and then kind of moves into let's think of a happier thing, but not a weird gaslighty thing. It's well, I know what'll lighten the mood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lets him have that moment, and then he tries to be okay, we've had that moment. We're not going to live in this moment.
Right.
Let's move out of it now.
To baby pictures.
With some baby pictures.
Bo's first bubble bath.
Which Adora is all for it.
I want to see the bubble baths.
Yeah.
Oh, what a goofball.
Yeah, and Bo's like, I'm going to show my friends my room now.
Yeah.
We need to escape from this situation.
Yeah. So we escape from this situation, and Glimmer is like, what the hell? And Adora's just sitting there still eating.
Yes, in any situation, if there is food, Adora's gonna find it. That's another big, character thing for her.
I love this. I love goofball Adora in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, she really shines when she's being goofy.
So we learn that, Bo's dads don't know he's a rebellion fighter. They think that he's at boarding school, and...
Because it would break their hearts to know the truth.
Yeah, and this is kind of where we really start to have the theme of this show, which is coming out and explaining the truth, right? Because we also have that parallel story with Catra.
I mean, this is one of the only times that we have any type of story on the show that could be considered a coming out story.
Absolutely. So we have Bo saying, Glimmer's like, this is why you never talked about your past. And she thought Bo was like dark and broody and painful.
Right. So she feels a little betrayed.
Right. Which makes sense, right?
Which I understand, of course.
Yeah. And then Bo's like, no, I love my dads, but they had this narrative that I was going to do these things and I never wanted to do that. And I can't tell them that I am, I secretly taught myself these things. I said I was I pretended I was at a boarding school. And he was like, I don't want to disappoint them if I tell them who I am.
Right.
And
I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
He feels like his truth would hurt them.
Absolutely. And Bo.
And Adora points out that this seems really elaborate.
It seems really elaborate. Like, that is like some deep closet stuff.
Yeah. And these, it's not like his dads are mean.
Right. No, they're lovely.
They're nice and sweet.
And they love Bo, but like they have like...
And that's the thing. Like, he's not afraid that they are going to reject him or kick him out of the family. He just doesn't want to hurt them.
He doesn't want to hurt them because they have super strong opinions on like... the Princess Alliance.
Everything.
They are like super strong opinion. But
everything when it comes to Bo and what his life should look like.
Absolutely. So
you're just going to lie to them forever?
Yeah.
Not forever. Just for the foreseeable future.
But then Bo points out that they have probably what they're looking for, so they can, sit around because they're just a pair of Gileses. So
also, yes, they are an adorable threesome of Gileses. Mm-hmm. And also, Bo, asks them to just play along and keep his secret. And he gives them, the big anime puppy Bambi eyes, which later Lance also does. And that's a cute little father-son thing.
Like a shared thing. And then we have Adora saying, we can be scholars. How hard can it be? And of course...
How hard can it be?
Yes. And of course, anytime anybody says, how hard can it be in anything, they, of course, are proved that it is indeed quite hard.
Actually, it wasn't that hard. Well, it worked out pretty well in this episode.
Yeah, Adora's acting like a fucking dumbass, but like...
I know, yes. So they get a little bit more of their backstories that they are supposed to memorize, which they are definitely not going to memorize.
So then we switch to the Fright Zone, and Catra's a fucking mess, right?
Yep. Scorpia is trying to be helpful, but she doesn't know what she's looking for, so it's hard to be helpful.
And, like, I get that, right? Like, Scorpia's just like, I want to be here for you. How can I be here? And Catra's...
Yeah, how can I help?
Yeah. And, of course, Catra's pushing her away. And
Catra's just like, snark, snarkity snark.
Snarkity snark. And Scorpia, who does have some boundary issues.
Yes, she does. And we have pointed this out plenty of times.
But does also wrap Catra in, like, the kitty burrito.
Yeah. Yes, she does.
So, for folks that are not familiar with this, when you are a cat owner, cats do not like specific things like anybody violating their bodily autonomy. So in order sometimes to get a cat to calm down, to say, give them medicine or something like that, what you do is you wrap up the cat in a towel. And there's a very specific way where you fold the towel and wrap it up. So their claws...
It's like swaddling a baby.
It's like swaddling a baby. So their claws can't come out and bite you in the face. And a lot of like vet techs and stuff, I learned this from a vet tech, call it the burrito, because you're literally wrapping the cat in like a burrito.
Yeah, I actually didn't think of that, but that is 100% accurate.
Yeah, gotta love the burrito.
I feel like, that could also be done, to a human. That's sensory overload, way of calming a panic attack.
Good point.
Weighted blanket type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
A parasympathetic nervous system response.
Yes, absolutely.
Way to combat a panic attack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Either way, but they probably were thinking of your thing, though.
The kitty burrito?
It's cuter. It's much cuter. Yeah, in fact, I just took my kitty to the vet this week, and they did exactly that, to take a blood draw from her leg.
Yeah.
That's a much more adorable image. And it works.
It does.
She does get Catra to calm down enough to spit out the actual truth of the matter, which is that Shadow Weaver escaped.
Yeah.
And Scorpia, of course, reacts exactly as we know she will. She's like, you and I can handle this together. I'm here for you. I got you.
We can reach out to Entrapta. We can find her. Your friends have your back.
Yeah, and Catra does not want to involve Entrapta because Entrapta is not good at secrets.
Nope.
So Scorpia is fine with that. She's like, all right, we'll find Shadow Weaver, just the two of us. Sadly, they do not see little Imp up in the rafters.
Uh-oh.
I'm usually weirdly a fan of Imp, but not right now.
Yeah, not me.
Mind your business, Imp. Mind your business.
But Imp is like, heh, 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 heh.
Yes.
So...
Away he swoops on his little demonic cherub wings.
Away he swoopeth. Then we swoop back to the library.
Yes. Where Lance is so fucking happy showing them all his historical toys.
He's like, here's a picture, and here are some tablets, and here's where Bo played pretend as a little boy, and we see Bo's little special play for it cave thing. It was so
And they left
cute.
it exactly as it was probably for the last, 15 years.
I know, it's so cute.
Very cute. I wouldn't mind crawling in there. I could sleep in that little fort.
Yeah, right? It looks awesome.
And Glimmer guesses, based on everything she knows of her friend, that Bo used to like playing pirates as a child.
And Lance was like, no, Bo was playing Historian. And Lance, I think Bo was probably playing pirates.
Yeah, and they just didn't want to see it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And
of course, Adora's going in there as, Mr. Bo's dad, sir, as first one
adorable.
Historians. I love the Mr. Bo's dad. Once again, kind of showing that Adora has no concept of family.
Yeah, but she's just willing to dive into this head first.
Sure.
Once she's committed to this part, she's like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, she's committed to the role, right? So she's doing it.
Yes. And she's leveraging this moment to see what they know about She-Ra.
Yep, and this is when we have more of the goofy poking fun at the archaeology, getting stuff wrong stuff.
And so all the translation, the fact that no one actually speaks first ones except for Adora in this whole place.
Yep.
And they joke that they think the name was actually Hera.
And she's like, well, that's not right. And Bo's like, shut up.
Yeah, you don't know that for sure, because no one actually speaks this language, right?
And then we have a really cute little throwback to He-Man, who says, for the power of Grayskull.
Right.
And that is not correct. Adora says it's for the honor of Grayskull. And then
we see this etching that apparently a past She-Ra at some point did have a dragon.
And Adora's like, what the hell? I wish I had a dragon.
Yeah.
Or doesn't finish that, but is definitely like, I want a dragon. It wasn't Mara? Or do you think it was another, She-Ra?
I don't think we ever saw Mara with a dragon.
Yeah.
So I think it must have been an older She-Ra.
An older She-Ra who used her magical sword, probably, right?
To summon a dragon
or some shit.
Who
Transform
knows?
something into a dragon.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Maybe that She-Ra, instead of transforming a horse, transformed a lizard more effectively than Adora did.
Right. Adora just made a wacky psychedelic lizard buddy.
Tiny party lizard.
But tiny party lizard.
Maybe, the She-Ra knew what she was doing more and intentionally made a dragon.
That's dope, though.
Baller, yeah.
Right?
Anyway, so Adora is a little too enthusiastic about this. Bo is freaking out because he's still trying, above all, to maintain their cover.
Yep. So then we have, princess nonsense,
Yes. So,
George.
basically, they're trying to keep their stories straight. Adora forgets that she's supposed to be an art major.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about the history, and then she has to double down. Yes, history, art history. That's 3.
That's 3.
I'm a triple major, and I also teach, unless that's not a thing students do.
Which,
is it hot in here?
It's but she says a major. She says she's a triple major.
Right,
so.
right.
I love when Lance is like, how are your studies? And Glimmer's like, the physics are good. Refers to it as the physics. And I'm like,
yeah. And they're good. That's how it's going.
The history is also good.
Physicsing away.
Physics, they're just physicsing, the laws of the universe.
They do.
Yeah, they're just physicsing about NBD.
Yeah. Maintaining the physical laws of the universe as they do.
Glimmer's not, Glimmer's great. She's keeping an eye on it, making sure shit's happening.
Yeah.
I like that physics was chosen because Glimmer's teleportation just kind of defies the laws of physics, so.
Yeah, that's very true, very true. And so during this exchange, Glimmer and George have a little conversation where Glimmer finds out more of how they see Bo and how Bo was before he came to Bright Moon.
Yeah.
He was shy, quiet, he didn't have many friends. And, you know, before he met Glimmer, he was a very different person.
He was a different person. And I do love that even though he's like kind of like living this double life or whatever, he still tells his parents about his friends. And I love that. All right? Like, I love that.
Yeah. He's telling as much truth as he can.
Right. So
he's telling his emotional truth.
He's telling his emotional truth, right?
Yeah. So they eventually, Bo finds a way to try to ask them a question that will give them the information they need without blowing his cover. So he says they have, for school, they have a first one's puzzle to solve.
I love that.
So we asked them if they have heard of Serenia.
And Lance is like, oh, it was a mythical first one's hero.
They think. But here's some research.
Yep. And then I love that Lance and George have a little snarky back and forth about like, well, some people think she was a real person, and some people think the Elberon vase dates only back 1 millennia. Like they're like, ooh, we're nerds. We're having
their ongoing nerd snark is very adorable.
I love it. It's super relatable too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So they've got this huge pile of research to go through, and it's not even everything they have. It's only what's on the first floor. And then this is another really, really sweet moment because Glimmer says, oh, this is going to take hours. And Lance says, hours, days, maybe weeks. And if you're really lucky, it might take you a whole lifetime.
I know, that's so wholesome.
And I think he like takes George's hand and like gives him like, love eyes.
I know, they love each other and they love history and they love historying together.
They are married people goals.
For real, right? Aww.
Yeah. 13 kids later.
13 kids. That's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids.
Holy bajoli.
We're going to imagine that all of those kids are adopted, that they were, orphaned by the war.
Or like, Etherean magic lets everybody have kids together,
That's true.
Perhaps it is magic. Who knows? But I love that, George kind of like melts a little bit and is like, you're so corny. It's so cute. It's so cute.
Which really means like, oh, I love you.
I know. It's so cute. Yeah. And then we have Adora going through and being like, well, this one's just about aqueducts.
So this is mislabeled. So Adora reveals that she can understand first one's writing.
And Lance is like, what?
Yes. So the dads now freak out.
Oh, yeah. And Adora's like, I study linguistics. It's a 5th or a 6th or 4th or 7th or a major. I'm just losing count.
And they're not even like paying attention to the gaps in her story because they are just super, super excited.
Right.
That she can be their first one's translator.
Exactly. And so George pulls up his sleeve and has a tattoo on his forearm.
A first one's tattoo.
And it's like, what does this say? And Adora's like, it says lunch. And I love this because this happens fucking all of the time.
Yes. And Lance starts cracking up. George says he thought it said love. And this is very much a cultural call out.
Yeah.
Like inside joke that's not really an inside joke at all.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows plenty of people who have tattoos in languages that they do not understand.
In the 90s, it was really big to have, like, Chinese tattoos. And, everyone's like, no, it means strength. And it was like...
Yeah, it means I'm an asshole.
Yeah, so this is a great story. So this is one in particular that kind of tickled Jenny and I, because as you know, we're both Jews. So, so this gentleman was in a Walmart and saw somebody that had a tattoo and was like, what?
A Hebrew tattoo.
He didn't have the heart to tell him that the guy thought his tattoo meant strength, when really the tattoo said matzah.
Matzah is the flat cracker bread that we eat on Passover.
No, it's not strength, folks. It's...
The word for strength is otzma. Which has most of the same letters as matzah, but not in the same order.
Right. So
obviously this guy, did not actually know the word. He was just trusting someone else who he should not have trusted, who was either playing a joke on him or just had no idea what they were doing. So now he's going around with a tattoo on his arm that says basically cracker.
Right. So that was
and he's telling everyone it says strength.
It just says strength. So, like, I love that. So that was one that was going around. That's one example out of so many, but I thought that one was funny because...
Yeah. And of course, like, a lot of Jewish people who do read Hebrew, that's circulated around a lot. The joke is, he should get chametz on the other hand.
I loved that, yes.
You know, and chametz is bread,
yeah,
which is what you don't eat on Passover. So those are like two opposites. It would be like if you had milk and cookies or peanut butter and jelly.
Oh my God,
whatever.
That's actually kind of a cool idea. But
yeah, so it's just one example of so many.
Yeah.
And, I have Hebrew tattoos on both arms. On my left arm, I have... I don't know if I would call it a sleeve. I have a big phoenix that wraps all the way around my arm, and it has 3 tail feathers of fire, and there's one word in each of the 3 tail feathers. It says Eheya, Asher Eheya, which means I am what I am, I will be what I will be, I am becoming what I am becoming. You could look it up if you're interested. It's Exodus 3:14. It's God's answer to Moses. When Moses asked God, what is your name? So I like that a lot because it's the idea of divinity as continually becoming yourself.
I love that.
As a state of divinity. And, that relates a lot to the phoenix as constantly becoming more your own authentic self.
Right.
And then on my right arm, I have a simple hineni, which means, literally it means behold me, but it's the archaic form for I am here. And there's another story behind that, which we don't have to get into. But so when I was a camp counselor, I only had the hineni. And I remember some of the older kids one day noticing it and asking me about it. And so I told them what it meant and that it was Hebrew. And they said, wow, you speak Hebrew? And I said, of course, I would never get a tattoo in a language that I don't understand.
Exactly.
Don't do that. I said, don't do that, kids. Like, do not get a tattoo in a language that you don't speak because, first of all, you don't know what it really says. And second of all, it's really disrespectful.
Absolutely.
Because you don't have any connection. Like, why?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Why are you getting a tattoo in a language that you have no connection to? Like, it's not your language. It's not your culture.
Yep, absolutely. And unlike this woman, which is from another example, who said that she wanted the tattoo of "I love my boyfriend," the name of the boyfriend, on her back, but because she used the Babylon translator, she ended up with a tattoo saying, "Babylon is the world's leading dictionary and translation software."
Oh my God! Wow! See, there you go. Folks, stick to languages that you can speak and vet for yourself.
Yeah,
with your own brain.
With your own brain that you have a connection to.
So there we go. But luckily, Bo's dads take this all in good stride. They're laughing about it.
Lance thinks that's hilarious and is like, Adora's great.
Yes, he loves Adora. So they dive in now to this first one's research now that they have their own personal Google Translate human being.
Which is not Babylon is the world's greatest,
Yeah. And now we have a little Bo and Glimmer time.
Yep. I just love that Bo gets his dorky naming and puns from his dad, who says, let us go onward, the best research squad. And I'm like, aw.
Yes.
So cute.
I thought about that too. Yeah, they do a really good job of reflecting how much of Bo is in his dad's.
Yeah. And it's really, it's awesome.
It's very, very sweet. But we see, Glimmer is finally able to have a little bit of one-on-one time with Bo. Being like, what's up with you? You have a secret family that I never knew about. And I thought you were my best friend. And I thought I knew you. And now I feel like I don't know you at all.
Right. And Bo is like, no, you actually know the real me. Yeah. I act like somebody I'm not because I don't want to hurt my family. And
right.
Oh, Bo.
And Glimmer, as an objective outsider to this situation, and Bo has been in this situation for so long that he certainly doesn't see it clearly anymore. If he ever did, Glimmer says, Bo, your dads love you. I'm sure they'll love the real you. And Bo is not quite ready to hear that.
Not quite ready to hear that.
He says, I've tried to tell them, but they don't want to hear the truth, so I just pretend. And, of course, we see evidence that has been the case. He certainly wasn't playing historian when he was 5.
No, exactly.
But that's what they wanted to see. And that's probably true for most parents.
Yeah, and both, and this is, very much more coming out rhetoric.
Yes.
I'm nothing like the rest of my family. I've tried to tell them, but they don't want to hear, so I pretend.
Yes. Absolutely. 100%. 100% coming out rhetoric.
100% coming out rhetoric. I think maybe this is a good segue to tell some coming out stories.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so...
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go out first. I'll go first. So I have come out as LGBT and Q.
That's a lot.
I know. I have the EGOT of gay. So EGOT, by the way, is...
Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
Yep, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, and it is kind of one of very few people have one, and it is the are you the ultimate performer? Then you get these. So, I first came out to my mother when I was trying to go do some gay activism stuff, and she's like, "Well, why do you want to go? What's going on there?" And I was like, "Ugh." So I came out to my mother. This was when I came out as bi, so I came out as bisexual. And I said to my mom, "Yeah, I want to go because I'm, I came out as bisexual, but I definitely am more interested in women because this was the 90s, right? So, I'm still working witin that framework. Baby stepping. It's also still working within that framework of what, what gender and queer was at that point. So, and so my mom looks at me and she says, "Well, I already knew that, but when are you going to quit smoking cigarettes?" Because...
Nice.
I was like, what? How did you know I smoked? Right? I had to come out as both a cigarette smoker and
right, because
queer.
Teenagers have no idea that when you smoke cigarettes, you smell like smoke.
Right. And my mother was a smoker, so I would I was stealing cigarettes from her. Obviously, she was going to fucking figure that out, right? And when I came out to anyone else in my family, they all were like, "Yeah, no shit." And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Why is this so anticlimactic?
Yeah, how did everyone else know before me? Right. Why didn't you tell me?
But I was very lucky, though, because, my family has always been supportive. And ever since I've come out as all the other things, they've been like, cool.
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
So I'm lucky on that, though. I feel very blessed and very lucky, especially for when I came out, because even though the 90s were pretty gay, it was still kind of working.
It was a very transitional time.
It was a very transitional time.
Yeah. I also was very lucky, and it was very clear to me how lucky I was because, as I think I've mentioned this in the pod before, I went to a city-run queer youth group. And I was the only kid there who went to private school, and all my friends in public school had a much rougher time than I did. They were, not physically safe at school. Most of them did not have supportive parents. It was very clear to me how lucky I was. So I also came out to my mom first. I had no filter as a teenager, and I certainly had no filter with my parents. That's one of the things about having parents who don't have their shit together and are struggling with mental illness is that it's often difficult, but there was no reason to keep secrets from them because they're like, "Listen, we don't have our shit together. Right. You have your shit more together than we do. We're clearly not in charge of you."
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You're doing your best, and we know you're doing a good job, and we're all kind of if anything, you're in charge of us. So I didn't have a reason to have a filter or keep secrets. So I told my parents everything right away because, we just processed our stuff together and that was as therapeutic as anything. So I came out to my mom, as soon as I came out to myself. I spent all of 9th grade obsessively crushing on the most beautiful girl in school. If you can imagine a Rachel Berry character with a good personality, that was my crush girl. I spent all of 9th grade so in love with this girl and trying to figure out what was actually happening. I thought about her all day, all night. Aww. Stared at the back of her head in assembly. Aww. I just was completely in love with her. She was the star of every spring musical. So when I was in 8th grade and she was in 11th grade, of course all the 8th graders, want to go to the high school musical because it was a K through 12 school. So she was Mary Magdalene in Jesus Christ Superstar when she was in 11th grade and I was in 8th grade. So we were there every night for that week-long run. And the boy who played Jesus had a full beard, and I legit thought he was a teacher in the high school until the first night of that show. I was like, "Why is a teacher in the musical?" And I was like, no, that's a high school student. No. So of course all the girls were obsessed with him.
Right.
Except for me. I was obsessed with Rebecca Deshpande, and she knows this story, and she thinks it's awesome that she's my coming out story. But at the time, of course, I did not understand what was happening. But, I just, I was done. This, tiny, beautiful girl with this voice that just fills this giant auditorium.
Mm-hmm. Aww.
And so in the fall, we had a class together, even though she was a senior and I was a freshman, because we have a lot of flexibility in our school, and if you take all of your first, second language requirements before you hit 12th grade, you can take a third language.
Oh, cool.
So she was doing that. She had taken every available French class, and now she flipped over to Spanish.
Cool.
And I was on the accelerated Spanish class. So if you've already mastered a second language, of course, they're going to put you in the accelerated track for your third language. So we were in the same accelerated Spanish class, and she was with the freshmen, even though she was a senior.
Right.
Thank God I am really good with languages. Because I did not pay attention that entire year. I did not study. I did not listen. And I still got first place in the national Spanish exam 3 years in a row.
Good
even
for
though,
you.
I mean, I'm telling you, I really did not do anything in that class except stare at her.
Oh, Jenny, that's so cute.
It was tough.
Yeah.
I was really in deep, and I just couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have words. I didn't have a vocabulary. I could not process it. And so I had this really profound experience with my brain, which was kind of scary because I realized when my brain finally stopped fighting me, we were in the basement having rehearsal for West Side Story, which was the spring musical when I was in 9th grade and she was in 12th grade. She was Anita, and I was just a chorus girl. And I was also the props master. Because I'm gay, I have to have a behind-the-scenes job as well.
Jenny, the only time I ever did, like, any sort of, like, crew or anything in middle school, that's what I was. I was the props master.
Yes, it's a very gay job.
Yeah, it is.
So I was around more than the average chorus participant because I had this extra job. So I got to spend more time with her than I otherwise would have.
Aww.
And, you know, I was forced to deal with it. And it just built up more and more and more. And so we were rehearsing this big dance number. And, of course, she was in the front. She's one of the stars.
Right.
And it was getting close to opening night. The number wasn't fully choreographed. Everybody was really frustrated. And we got to a point where there was no more choreography. And the director said, Rebecca, just do something sexy here. And everyone laughed because everyone knows that everything this girl does is sexy.
Right.
And she doesn't have to, like, try.
Right.
It's like saying, why don't you just keep breathing, you know?
Oh,
and so
Jenny.
in that moment of shared understanding, my subconscious block that I had been working so hard to maintain just broke. This dam just broke violently in a moment. It was so concrete.
Wow.
Boom. You're gay, you fucking idiot. You want to sleep with this girl.
And you're like, oh,
That's exactly what is happening.
And you're like, well.
And I was like, and I had a huge panic attack and I ran out of the room because I was like, oh my God, my brain is keeping secrets from me.
Oh.
What else has my brain been keeping secret from me that I don't know about?
Oh, Jenny.
So that was a really scary experience for me. And when my mom picked me up that day, I told her immediately in the car what was going on. But I was still not prepared. I also came out as bisexual for like 2 weeks because I wasn't fully prepared to leap off the platform of social safety in one fell swoop.
Right, right.
So I started off by saying, I think maybe I might possibly be bisexual, and I think it took me 30 seconds to get that full sentence out.
Oh.
And my mom's reaction, both my parents were very supportive, but my mom's initial gut reaction, which I understand, was to reassure me that everyone questions their sexuality and that that's normal and it doesn't automatically mean I'm gay.
Right.
So I think she was mostly trying to reassure me that it didn't mean anything to question.
Right, right.
But you're still normal. It's normal to question. Everyone questions.
Right.
So I think she leaned on that a little too heavy initially. But, you know, she's like, and especially because I didn't say it as a definitive statement.
Right.
Because I was still very unsure. So, you know, she gave me space. And then I went to stay with my dad for the weekend, and I said the same sentence to him. And my dad had an even sweeter reaction. He said, well, honey, whenever I'm not sure about something for myself, I read a book about it. And then, if it resonates, you'll know.
Oh.
So he took me to College Hill Bookstore, and he bought me a copy of the only lesbian book he knew at the time, which is Ruby Fruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown.
Yes, classic.
A classic.
That is a great book.
1960s queer classic, which I recommend. And it did indeed resonate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was fun. And then the last little tidbit I will leave you with is I waited a couple years to come out to my grandma because my mom begged me to because she knew that it would be difficult for her.
Right, yeah.
So I waited until I was 16 to come out to my grandma. And then I tried to do it in a nonchalant way. I was like in her kitchen helping her make dinner. We're like chopping some raw chicken. And, you know, I said, Grandma, you know I'm a lesbian, right? Because, you know, it seemed pretty obvious at that point.
Yeah.
And she was just sort of silent for a minute. And then she said, I told your mother She shouldn't let you spend so much time with all those theater people dressed in black. And I tried to explain to her that she was, like, reversing the causality on that.
Right, but...
She didn't get... And then she said, just don't tell your grandfather.
Oh, my
God. And we never talked about it again.
Right.
But she never gave me a hard time about it.
Right.
So, you know, she was as cool as she could possibly be.
As she could possibly be, yeah.
Yeah. And my parents certainly have always been very loving. My dad even let me have sleepovers with my girlfriend in high school. He had zero problem with that. Actually, my mom did too.
Aww.
Why am I saying my dad? My dad went out of his way to make it clear that he understood that these were sexy sleepovers and that it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are our very wholesome coming out stories.
Very, very wholesome.
And we're really lucky that we were able to have really wholesome coming out stories, especially for the time that when we came out. So
yes.
And it's not easy for everybody. And it's not easy, you know, people come out, you know, people continuously come out. And I think one thing that Jenny and I have both said to, you know, folks is that you're always coming out. It's never one time.
That's right.
You know, you're always coming out. You're always figuring out new things about yourself. And it's okay. It is okay to continue to come out. It is okay to continue to explore who you are, what your gender is.
It's okay to change.
Yes, and it's okay to change. It is okay. Like, be as gay as you want to be, you know?
And love who you want to love, even if it doesn't match up with the identity that you thought you had established for yourself last year or last week.
And have the gender that you want.
Fuck yeah.
Dude, just be it, man. Be as queer as you need to be.
Yes. Be the queer you want to see in the world.
Be the queer you want to see in the world. Embrace queer joy.
Yes. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen.
So that is our positive queer elder moment. You want to get back into Adora being a total dumbass?
Sorry if I rattled on a little bit.
No, that's great.
But my wholesome gayness cannot be contained.
No, nor can mine.
Anyway, so back we are in the library with Lance and Adora.
And Lance is very excitedly showing Adora, him and George's favorite thing, but they don't know what it is.
And yes, and it has some writing on it.
And they don't know what it says. And so Adora, the eternal dumbass that she can be, not that she is, but that she can be, says, oh, this one's easy. It's a password to open it. Like, not thinking, like, you know, that should be anything. A password.
She can't even say the word password normally.
I know. She says Eternia, and it opens up.
Yep. And here comes our little beastie for the episode.
And we learned that it's called an elemental. I don't know why it's called an elemental. I can't even question the world building at this point anymore.
Well, I actually, even though I'm usually not one of the world building people, it makes sense to me because they refer to the princesses who have runestones as the elemental princesses. So
this is like
I think elemental is probably shorthand for like, oh, it's a guardian of one of the elemental runestones.
Oh, like an elemental guardian. Okay, I get you. I'm with you.
Yeah, just like the giant bugs in the Northern Reach.
Right, yeah, like the giant pill bugs. So the elemental opens up and Lance is super stoked.
Yeah, Lance is super stoked for like a second until he realizes that it's here to attack them.
Everyone is, and then Adora's like, don't worry, it's an elemental. It'll be a piece of cake.
Yeah. Hold my beer, I got this. And then she just straight up turns into She-Ra in front of everybody with, once again, she still feels the need to put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. This is my favorite. For the honor of Great Skull! And it so resonates funny. And it's really, really goofy. Yeah. And then Bo says that Adora is a 6th major in She-Ra.
Right, because, like, that's definitely a thing. When you major in She-Ra, you can just turn into her.
Right,
NBD.
not even She-Ra studies.
Yeah, just She-Ra. And I'm like, it's kind of her first major, honestly.
I mean, yes, indeed. If she was in school, that would be her first major. So she starts, she's outed herself now as She-Ra. She starts doing her thing. And then Glimmer joins in, outs herself as a teleporting princess, starts doing her thing.
And so they're fighting this elemental, And Bo's really trying to keep it together, but obviously there's no way that he can do that, right?
Yep. And finally, Lance is like, Bo, are your friends princesses?
And then George is like, you're going to tell us what is happening right now. And Bo is like, actually, right now, we need to...
Right now might not be the time.
Right now might not be the time. And then Bo is like, we have to act. We've run into them before.
Bo shows that he understands the situation and knows how to handle it.
And Bo comes out. Yep. And Bo is kind of forced to come out, which is kind of a bummer, but
it works out okay.
It works out okay.
Sometimes you're forced to come out, and it actually works out okay. They figure out, Lance says that it was found alongside the runestone shard.
Bo is like, you're a genius, Dad, and, he'll explain to everything. I'll explain everything, but you have to trust me. And then Bo jumps into the fray.
So now all three of them, best friend squad, are doing their thing. In full witness of Bo's dads.
In full witness of Bo's dads. They're doing their thing.
Glimmer saves the dads.
Yeah, they're about to get slammed, so Glimmer teleports them. It's really nice meeting you, right?
Yeah.
Then we have Bo's hero moment, where Bo reaches to get his arrows, can't get them, and so completely, does the one last thing that Bo needs to really turn into Bo. And rips the bottom of his shirt off, exposing his midriff of power.
Yes! His midriff of power!
So.
That is 100% spot on.
So, Bo gets his arrows, fighting.
And they win in the end.
Bo figures out, takes the runestone, shows it to the elemental. The elemental takes it, powers down, turns into a pill bug again. I love this. Glimmer says, that's my Bo. And then she returns into Adora, and this is when Bo comes out to his family.
Yep. It's truth time.
And it's like, there's no Academy of Historic Enterprises, which, no shit.
Yeah, I made up the school of stuff.
Yeah, I made up the school of learning and things. I live at Bright Moon, I'm in the Rebellion. Yep. And then it's like, I don't want to be
and this reminds me of one thing I wanted to say. It's one thing that they don't know Adora is She-Ra, because that's not really public knowledge. But, they're academics. Do they not recognize Glimmer as the Princess of Bright Moon? That's like if you came home and it's like, yeah, this is my friend Malia Obama. She's just my friend from the soccer team.
She's just my buddy. And I was like, oh, yeah, how you doing? No one knows the last name Obama.
It's just funny that they don't know who Glimmer is, but you gotta let it go.
So Bo is like, and then says, I'm not a shy bookworm. I've never wanted to do this. I'm not a genius, which, Bo, you're downplaying yourself. You're a tech genius. He's
a different type of genius than the type that they recognize.
Yeah, it's like, I make things. I'm a soldier. And I can't lie about it anymore, even though I'm breaking your hearts. And George is the best.
Yes, his dads have the most wonderful reaction you could hope for.
It's like, what breaks our hearts is the fact that you had to lie to us.
You thought you had to lie.
Excuse me. Yeah, you thought you had to lie to us. And Bo is totally you're not mad. And George and Lance are like, of course not. We love you.
He says, but I'm a fighter and you hate fighters.
Yeah, and I love the, we love you, who you are. We were just trying to encourage you to pursue your dreams. We didn't realize that this wasn't your dream. And then Lance is like, we were being terrible.
Lance says the exact same line to Bo that Bo said to Adora in, I believe, episode 104, which Flowers for She-Ra, when they kept hyping her up without her permission, talking her up to Perfuma's people, of course she can save you. Of course she can do this and that. You should hear about all these other great things she can do.
That's a great callback.
And at the end of that episode, Bo said to Adora, I thought I was being supportive, but really I was being terrible.
That is a great callback.
And that's exactly what Lance says to Bo here.
And, George says, we love you the way you are, and we're proud of you no matter what path you take in life. And what a great response.
And then they all cry happy tears.
And then they have a big family hug.
Yeah,
and then George and Lance invite Adora and Glimmer in, because George and Lance also know that found family is family.
That's right. All queers know that.
All queers know that. It's true. All queers know that. It's part of our queer DNA.
That's right.
So they have a big hug.
It's really, really beautiful moment.
It's really beautiful. And so now we get to our kind of important exposition-y stuff that we need to know.
Yes.
Bo is like, okay, here's the real deal. I came home because I came home, but we actually need your help on this.
Right. This is why we really need to know this word Serenia.
And so they're trying to figure out what do these other words mean. And then George is like, wait a minute. I don't think these are words. I think they are bum, bum, bum. And then we learn
constellations, baby.
Constellations. So, of course, they have a projector, right? So they have like this.
Of course they do. They have their own little home planetarium,
right, exactly.
Which is totally sick.
Exactly. I know, right? I
would turn that shit on every night at bedtime.
Well, I mean, you've seen the lights that have like they make them. They make like the.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I have this cool nightlight that's like half laser show in the planetarium and half like underwater kind of lighty.
That's awesome.
And it also changes color.
Nice.
And it's really good for like chill down, getting ready for sleep vibes.
Totally.
And it turns itself off after an hour.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So you can just go to sleep with it and then not worry about wasting electricity by leaving it on all night.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So so they learn about, they say the world of the first ones was different, climate, language, even the sky, and they were filled with cosmic...
Because they were not in an empty dimension.
Right. They have stars.
Right.
And the first ones used them to navigate and named constellations after mythical heroes, including Serenia. So, okay. So we have, all these constellations and everything. So in Etheria, they've never heard of that.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense that they would have any way of having access to knowledge about constellations at all, because they've never existed anywhere except in Despondos. But we gotta let it go.
Which also, this kind of went to me. It's like, okay, so they don't have constellations, which means they don't have astrology on Etheria.
That's right.
So no one knows what their sun, moon, and rising are in Etheria. So,
But we have astrology based on the princesses.
We have astrology based on the princesses, and we're really excited to talk about that in the future.
Yes.
So
yes, we will talk about that in a future episode.
But we have Lance and George telling them that this particular constellation only appears in the summer and over one place, and Glimmer recognizes where that is, and they're like, map planetarium, and that is... the Crimson Waste. The Crimson Waste?
We cannot wait to get there.
Yeah. What is the Crimson Waste, Jenny?
The Crimson Waste is a no man's land. A giant, lifeless desert. No one's ever made it that far and come back alive.
Damn, I wonder what it's like there. I wonder if people have actually lived there. I don't think anyone lives there.
I don't think anyone could ever live there.
I don't think so.
It's a lifeless desert.
Lifeless desert.
It's like Black Rock, Nevada, except for the 1 week a year when Burning Man is there. Nothing lives. Alkaline sand. Nothing
flats,
can grow.
The far as the eye can see.
If you spend too much time there and you don't spray white vinegar on your fingernails and toenails, they will fall out, and that is true.
I hate that.
Oh yeah, it's from the alkaline soil.
Yeah, no,
I don't know
that
if
makes
it's
sense.
really the soil, the sand, whatever
the
it
dust,
is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's literally no plants, no bugs, no vegetation, nothing can grow.
That makes sense.
And that's why for 1 week a year you can have 10,000 people show up, because that land is not being used for anything else, because it cannot be used for anything else.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
It's a dead zone. Just like the Crimson Waste.
I'm sure there's nobody there.
Nobody there. And George is like, you need to promise me that you'll stay away, kids.
They do not make any such promise.
They do not make any such promise, but then we switch over to the Fright Zone.
Yes, we go back to Hordak's Sanctum. Our favorite place!
Oh, yeah, we love Hordak in the Sanctum.
I don't know why I felt the need to do that. I just feel like Catra has been through enough this season.
Ugh, I know. Already. She's already been through enough this season.
She's been through a lot.
Catra's been called in to see Hordak.
He wants to touch base, as she puts it. Which is so patronizing. Like, is that not something that leaders of teams should do from time to time?
Also, like, when your boss calls you in to touch base, you're fucked.
Yeah. See how my orders are being carried out.
Gross. And Catra's not looking so hot, but it's like, everything's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And what else is she supposed to do?
Right, exactly. And Hordak is like, does this mean Shadow Weaver's been transferred to Beast Island? And Catra's like, yeah, no.
Totally. Yep. took care of that.
We're never going to see her
done.
again. And then we hear Catra's voice repeating what she said to Scorpia.
Yep, out of Imp's little recorder mouth.
I lost Shadow Weaver. Shadow Weaver escaped. I have to find her before Hordak learns the truth. And now we have Catra's little parallel story of being outed. And Catra does not have the best coming out experience.
No, she does not have nice dads.
No, she does not have nice dads. She has a horrible boss instead.
Yep, so he's powering up his air-sucking machine on her.
Yep.
We have seen him do before.
And was like, you have lied to me. This was a test and you have failed. And oh, cool. So we have Hordak trying to kill Catra again. And then we don't see what happens. The scene switches to Adora's room,
where we see a certain someone standing over her bed.
Who is it, Jenny?
It's fucking Shadow Weaver.
Shadow
it's a crazy
Weaver.
fucking cliffhanger to end a season on.
And then we have the end of the second season. And when this aired, everyone went,
Yeah. Days and nights of gay screaming followed this cliffhanger of a season finale.
It was wild.
Yeah, I remember being very, very frustrated.
Oh, same.
When I was like, that's the end of the season? Are you fucking kidding me?
I was so like, oh my God.
I was like, where's the rest of the season?
Yeah, I was.
Come on!
I was pretty pissed too.
Yeah.
So, Jenny.
So, Meth.
What did we learn today?
We learned that sometimes you don't get a full season of TV. Sometimes you get cliffhangers, and they are so cruel.
They are cruel.
But we also learned that sometimes your parents can handle more than you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you know they love you, then that's really all that matters.
Oh, I love that.
And found family is everything.
Found family is everything.
And you can combine your family of origin with your found family if you're really lucky.
If you're really lucky.
If you're willing to take a chance and open your heart.
Yep. Oh, I love that. This is such a wholesome episode.
It really is. And we also learned not to get a fucking tattoo in a language you don't understand.
Yes, I think that's a really important lesson to have.
Yeah, it's pivotal.
Well, folks, if you liked what you heard and you want to get matching lunch tattoos, you can like and follow us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcast fix. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at HeyAdoraCast, or you can email us all of your tattoo artist recommendations at heyadoracast@gmail.com. Hey, Johnny.
Hey, Matt.
Did you know we had a Patreon?
I did know. We have the best Patreon in town.
We do have the best Patreon in town.
That's where we do all of our gay screaming in our free time.
It's so fun. So, as you may have heard, we have a Patreon, and if you become a member of the Rebellion, you get to hang out with us in Discord servers, you get exclusive playlists, you get video hangouts, which we're planning our next video hangout. We're gonna watch more old school She-Ra.
And laugh so much.
It's super fun, and you get so many more perks.
You should come and romp gaily with us.
Romp gaily with us, and you can find the link to join our Patreon, as well as the link to this week's Spotify playlist, Reunion, in our show notes, or at heyadora.gay. And remember, queer joy is radical.
And queer love saves the universe! Woo! Oh, season 2!
Lunch!